In this edition of Proven to Work, investigating one of the most infamous mysteries in history. It's part of a lesson that exploits thinking skills in mixed ability groups and turns pupils into detectives. We'll be seeing the strategy in action and hearing from a top expert in education research who'll explain why it's proven to work. The first thing these Year 8 pupils have to detect is the subject of their investigation.
What makes you think it might be a murder?
Well, the arrow in his chest looks like he'd been murdered.
It's the first way to get them engaged, to actually show them something that actually might spark their interest, and what better way to do that than showing some sort of blood or gore or something like that in an image. They get engaged straight away, they get sucked into the idea of what is this lesson about.
The pupils soon work out they're looking into the death of a king and are told it's the rather suspicious death of William Rufus. The pupils are each given a different account which they must share with other members of the group and then decide what weight to give each piece of evidence.
You've got a set of sources that were taken from either history books or sources from the period of time when William was killed.
This lesson is basically intended to get the students to have a look at different types of evidence and actually communicating this evidence to one another to decide what actually happened to William II.
With their weapons ready, a beast suddenly ran between them. The king drew back from his place and water let fly an arrow.
They really start to build on each other's ideas, they really start to consider possibilities that they wouldn't necessarily do if they were working independently.
On hearing of his brother's death, Henry rode to Winchester on the 5th of August to his crowned king of England. Brother might want to kill him so he becomes king.
They love being the detectives.
The pupils first have to decide for themselves what happened to William and then make a group judgment.
I think it was an accident that Walter accidentally shot him with an arrow.
I think it was a murder because his brother would inherit it if his brother died. So he could have told his men or paid his men to kill him and make it look like an accident.
It means that right from the start, pupils are working independently, but at the same time relying on other members of their group. This approach could be adapted and made much more challenging by including complete red herrings in the evidence. The lesson is being observed by Philip Accordingly, Director of the Centre for the Use of Research and Evidence in Education.
Although they hadn't assigned a specific role to people, what she got the pupils to do was to think about what it means to be a good listener, what it means to be a good sharer of information, and she set up the task so it was genuinely interdependent by asking all the pupils to hold bits of information for themselves. It meant that everyone only had one piece of information, they relied on each other. It meant that children who are slower to read were able to use their listening skills as well as their reading skills.
Right then, there's been some real heavy debating going on some of these front tables. It's actually very impressive. Was it an accident or was it a murder?
Our table think it was a murder because if it was like a mishap, they would have gone over to see if he was all right in that, but in the sources it doesn't say anything about that.
It was an accident because William got in the way of the arrow and it hit him.
Miss, I don't think the stag even was there. I just think he just aimed at King William.
This detective work is an example of thinking skills which, according to the research, can be effective across the curriculum.
When you try and take research and development about particular techniques that are good for deepening thinking and embed them in lots of different subjects. So there are bodies of work about thinking through history, thinking through English, thinking through stories, thinking through poems, thinking through geography, thinking through science, so that the same kind of techniques exist so that the young people begin to be skilled at the inquiry techniques and can carry them between lessons and make connections between different subjects, as well as the teachers doing that.
To find out more about detective work and thinking skills and the research that goes with it, go to the Teachers TV website.